Hello everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews. Today we're doing another Hong Kong review, but this time it's for my very first ever Category 3 title film from Hong Kong cinema. That is of Naked Killer, the very sexy, very strange, ultraviolet exploitation, comedy, backflips, action, love story, kickassery that is the 92-minute version of Naked Killer, the uncut version on the DVD. I've heard many good things from this film, from the Wacky World Lounge, who did a review for it not too long back, and thanks to his review, I kind of took the punter and I thought, hey, I'll check this film down. Got it for a very, very cheap price on DVD, and I checked it out recently, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. So let's talk about Naked Killer. Naked Killer was released in 1992, directed by Clarence Fong, who, according to his IMDb list, hasn't really done a huge amount of films over the years. A lot of his movies are kind of very much B-movies, or kind of going into the kind of more smuttier, kind of, you know, softcore porn angle to the Category 3 titles. The one I did recognise called On the Wrong Track. Only because Will from Hong Kong Cinema mentioned it in one of his videos recently. He's definitely had a very mini success during the early 2000s, during the kind of late 90s in that sense as well. And just based on this film alone and kind of his interview that I watched on the DVD set, he seems like a very interesting director, definitely someone who's attached himself to this project and thought, hey look, I'm going to turn the script and I'm going to make it the best I possibly can with the budget I got, with the actors that I've got. I'm going to use my resources, I'm going to use my talent to the best possible version I can. And it's interesting, on the actual DVD interview, he talks about the early process making the film was he wanted Maggie Cheung or Michelle Yeoh to be in the film, but obviously they didn't want to do full frontal nudity. They only wanted to do facial reactions or kind of, you know, the top half kind of thing, nothing kind of exposed. And he really wanted to push the limits of the film a little bit kind of thing and make it something a bit more interesting, something a bit more daring, and eventually became a Category 3 title down to the nature of doing the actual script and finding actors or, you know, actresses that are willing to do some of the things in the film itself. Very similar to Basic Instinct and a lot of those other kind of exotic kind of thrillers during the kind of late 90s. There was a string of those kind of movies kind of really popping up within kind of, you know, Western side, obviously with Basic Instinct and kind of like, you know, Fatal Attraction kind of stuff. And surprisingly, Naked Killer, from the director's kind of approach and the way he talks about it in the extras, and watching the film also, he definitely clearly had a vision for what he wanted to do with the film. He knew his resources, he knew his budget. You know, he said in the actual interview he used 20% of an idea he had for the scene work and to make it work with the film. So definitely you got a very appropriate budget director that has a very clear vision on what he wants from the film, what he wants from the actors, how he wants from the cinematography, and he definitely made the film very engaging and very interesting, to say the least. And being the fact this is a Category 3 title, it doesn't really become one, really, I'd say, until about halfway through the film, for being absolutely honest. You know, Category 3, if you're not familiar with, I think most people are, it was a service and a label that basically gives kind of viewers access to movies that you wouldn't usually see on cinemas, maybe straight to DVD, maybe straight to VHS kind of thing, or Laserdisc, and kind of say, hey look, this is a bit more of a harder edge kind of movie for whatever your tastes are. And, you know, if you want to see it, you're going to have to pay a little extra kind of thing. And you want to be like an ultraviolet movie like Story of Ricky kind of thing, or have a low-key kind of soft-core porn movie like Erotic Ghost Story. Erotic Ghost Story on the recent Blu-ray release, the box set edition, that version sold almost immediately. Very interesting to see, even after 40 years, a film like that still get quite a strong response and get a very strong kind of fan base. And the fact that a lot of people are still after that type of edge is very interesting to me. Ultimately, it's not really that surprising really either. We definitely want to see movies definitely push the boundaries. These are brand new kind of uncut versions of the films that probably have not been seen in about 30, maybe 40 years, depending on the actual film itself. And, you know, there is definitely a market for it. There was a market back then, and there's absolutely a market right now. For the most part, I've kind of stayed clear from Category 3 kind of titles because these all seem to be the same type of movie over and over again. However, Naked Killer, this is actually a lot of fun and a real surprise, to say the least, for a Category 3 title. I went in with kind of low expectations and knew what I was really going to expect, and what I got was a very competent, very well executed, very well paced thriller that doesn't really become a Category 3 title type movie, air quote, until probably the kind of the last half of the film. I was quite surprised how restrained the film is. Don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of violence in the film. Don't get me wrong, there is ball stabbing, there is a lot of kind of strange humour, there's a lot of kind of, you know, over-sexualised kind of sequences, but it's almost like a bit of a parody of itself. I was watching the film thinking, is this film trying to take itself seriously, or is this film just having a giant laugh and knowing that you're having a laugh along with it? The storyline for Naked Killer follows two central characters that basically fall in love during the course of the actual film itself. At the core of the film, it is a love story, but it also has a lot of elements around it that kind of builds up the kind of relationship between these two characters, between Kitty and Summer Yang's character, the detective character. Both have very interesting kind of backstories, both have interesting motivations during the film. There's a sexy kind of female lesbian assassin going around. There's an apprentice kind of a master kind of level kind of situation going on during the course of the film. It's essentially Basic Instinct meets Lakita with a bit of category-free kind of mixed in for good fun. I would say the first kind of 35, maybe 40 minutes, maybe a little bit more so, is actually very engaging. I thought the two main characters on display are very likeable, despite the fact they do some questionable scenes in the film. With our main character Kitty, played by Chingmy, who's absolutely fantastic in the film. She's really, really good. Not only is she absolutely beautiful and sexy, but she's also really funny. She's also kind of really kick-ass also. She's got kind of a really good on-screen presence. You know, you're not quite sure what to make of her character immediately because she does some really dodgy stuff during the first portion of the film. She does some questionable kind of, you know, teasing or kind of, you know, playful nature in the sense, you know, the fact that she goes onto a police station and makes a false report just to kind of get the attention of this police officer played by Sam Young, who is the guy from PTU. I think every character in the film kind of plays a really good part that kind of balances out the film really well. Summer Yang's the more kind of serious kind of detective that has a kind of a wacky kind of backstory with his brother, and he kind of, you know, can't use a gun because if he does use a gun, he's going to be sick. So that's a convenient piece of kind of trivia in the film that, you know, that definitely plays a lot into the kind of the second half of the film later on. But his character is really interesting as well. I really like his kind of pursuit of this kind of, you know, female assassin that's going around, you know, killing a lot of people. Trail, and he kind of meets this woman along the way kind of thing, and he forms a kind of relationship or an attraction in a sense, and, you know, she goes missing, and it's more about her journey, about her kind of exploring kind of who she is as a character, and she has potential to be the kind of the next kind of female kind of, you know, hit woman in that sense. And you know, she gets explored by a character called Candy, who's a very kind of, you know, old school kind of old fashioned kind of hit woman who kind of sees potential on her and to kind of, you know, wants to train her and get her to a kind of a high elitist kind of level. As a really good kind of over the top kind of, you know, complete exploitation, just kick-ass action sequences that are really fun. Funny enough though, one of the things I mentioned in kind of previous videos I have done, especially with like Sammo Hung movies, is that women are usually the butt end of the joke. Women are usually the kind of the sluts, or the kind of the bad wife, or the nagging wife, or the kind of the cheaters, or the influencers in a sense. So it's nice to have a movie that is kind of the opposite end of that, where the women are kind of the main central characters of this film, but not only are they characters that are doing questionable things, they're actually just really interesting, really kind of well-developed characters that are really well presented on screen. And the men take a backseat. The men are a lot more of the kind of the animals in this film. Obviously the women are bad as well with the kind of the female assassin. And again, it's really nice to see a really strong kind of female-led kind of focused movie that has some really badass characters, that has some really good action stunt pieces, because a lot of these action moments and fight sequences, they're not just kind of cop-out kind of obvious stunt doubles, they are really actually going for it. You know, I've never seen two major sequences back to back be so exciting, so hilariously over the top that I was almost applauding it. The fact that, you know, like a character can go into a building and go gun blazing John Woo kind of style execution, lead into a car park sequence, which if you watch my Wild Search video, I'm kind of annoyed at kind of car park sequences recently because I've seen all the best ones in a sense, you know, with righting wrongs kind of thing. It has one of the best kind of, you know, car park sequences I think I've ever seen within a Hong Kong movie up to this point, and it's really well put together. The cinematography is really spot on, the style, the editing, really fast-paced nature. You can see everything that's going on. The fact you've got explosions, you've got kind of knife play, you've got backflips, you've got characters that are being kind of run over, you've got so many kind of car chase kind of mini moments, you've got characters that are coming left and right, that are being guns down. It's a crazy sequence followed by another crazy sequence before it, and I absolutely loved it. But I was quite surprised the film is just a straight up thriller for the most part of the film. and then turns into kind of a gradual love story between two characters. And because the first part did so much of the groundwork and so much of the kind of the setup, and it has so much fun and kind of taking the piss and kind of being quite meta in its kind of execution, you know, I don't mind the fact the film went a little bit slower towards the kind of second act, because you did so much fun within the first half and you set so much stuff to what that's going to pay off later on towards the second half. I didn't mind it. I was actually really invested in Kitty's character, I was really invested in kind of Sam Young's character. It definitely leads into kind of more that kind of cat and mouse kind of chase kind of angle towards it. I absolutely love it every single time you see Chingmy Young do this kind of seductress type of sequence, and you get that really kind of cheesy music going on. There definitely is obviously very much a kind of male gaze towards the kind of the second half of the film that is definitely played up in the category 3 title 100%. You know exactly what scenes I'm mentioning. Don't bullshit me, you know exactly what scenes I'm mentioning. It definitely goes full into a kind of a category 3 movie, and I can see where the kind of the uncut nature of the film might have come into this, because I can definitely see those sequences being very much edited down and very much kind of, you know, trimmed down to kind of the bare minimum. The film also has kind of a really strange kind of underlying kind of comedy kind of angle to it as well. Hilariously kind of cringy, but oh my god, I can't believe they're doing this type of sequence in a hotel where a murder scene has happened and they're trying to find a certain something. And let's just say it plays on from that point onwards, and it's really, really goddamn funny. It's really, really silly. It's really kind of immature, but god damn it, I laughed my ass off. It was so goddamn funny. So yeah, Naked Killer, 92-minute film, packs a lot of fun. What can I say? I really enjoyed this film quite a lot. I thought it was a really fun film. It definitely is just a nice kind of guilty pleasure, just kind of, you know, really well kind of presented kind of thriller that has a lot of elements that I quite enjoyed, and it definitely is a very competent, well-made film. I was quite surprised. Surprisingly, there is actually a sequel to this called Naked Killer 2 in the UK. It does have a Hong Kong Legends release, but surprisingly it is actually not called Naked Killer 2 in Hong Kong. It's called Raped by an Angel, a very appropriate title of course, and it is a sequel in a somewhat in the sense of bringing back all those characters and those actresses, but kind of tooling them and kind of giving them different roles, and it's a very much different thing. It's a spiritual kind of sequel, even though it has nothing really to do with the first movie, but I've heard many good things about it, despite the title and the poster being really kind of terrible. I don't know if that's something worth watching or tracking down. Please comment down below. The DVD itself for Naked Killer is actually a really nice kind of release. It is the kind of special collector's edition set. Features the uncut version with actually quite a decent amount of extras. Also, you get a digitally remastered and restored DVD transfer. The transfer is actually pretty solid, not HD worthy of course, but it does the job kind of thing for the meantime. Fully uncut version, first time on DVD, has interviews with the kind of leading man and the kind of producer. It has a full audio commentary by the director and the stuntman. You also have the Chingmy Young Uncovered essay feature, which kind of really dives into kind of her kind of career before and after this film. Interviews with the director, of course, which I thought was really well done and really good inside. And you get these kind of really cool full animated menus. The menu for this is actually really goddamn hilarious. There's kind of like a very kind of typical kind of woman just with a gun, and the music is just so cheesy. I love it. But yeah, pretty solid kind of DVD release in a sense. Kind of show you a bit more there. From Hong Kong Legends. It's a very cheap film to get as well. It's not very expensive, and yeah, I can definitely see this getting a kind of 5-star treatment from 88 Films. I definitely would upgrade for sure, but for the meantime, I'm quite happy with the DVD. It's very good. So that's been my review and my first kind of, you know, introduction to kind of category 3 kind of titles. Hope you enjoyed watching this video, guys. Hope you found this review entertaining. What are your thoughts and opinions on Naked Killer? Have you seen the film? Please comment down below. What would you recommend as another kind of category 3 film like this one that isn't kind of, you know, going one way or the other, but actually just a lot of fun? Please comment down below. Curious to see your thoughts and opinions, guys. For the meantime, it's Amphlett Reviews. Signing out.